Welcome to the Bullcast Podcast. I'm Katie Pickler, and with me today is Court Winsett.
Hello, Katie.
And Cameron Spann.
Hello, Court.
Yes.
There we go. We're inching closer and closer to that 300th episode.
Oh, yes.
Crazy.
Things are going to go boom when we hit 300.
Boom, boom, fireworks.
Yeah.
Ice sculptures, all the things.
So 6 more episodes.
Pew, pew,
we'll
pew.
hit it. after
Goodness
this.
gracious. Yeah, we got to get to planning. Last episode, we talked about mutual funds. As a reminder, we're going back to some of the more basic topics. You can go back deep into our archives and find the first couple episodes that we talked about mutual funds, ETFs, things like that. So this is a refresher and new insight on it because obviously every year there's new information coming out, new things to relate to. But this episode particular is going to be ETFs versus mutual funds. So again, last episode, we talked about what a mutual fund is. This episode, we're going to talk about what an ETF is, but also how it compares to a mutual fund because one and the other are not the exact same.
That is true. They are not the same. They are both organized on a very simple principle, I think, and that is the principle of diversification, right?
Yep, absolutely.
But they are definitely not the same. Beyond that, they do kind of look the same. They're kind of,
similar.
they're in the same sort of base. Obviously, they're both investment vehicles. They both
Usually
contain a lot of securities in them.
bundled together. And
There are some very, very simple, basic, bottom line kind of differences between the two. But they're kind of similar, but they're also very, very different.
yeah, it's like a lot of things that if you don't know the ins and outs of it, just on paper, looking at it, you're like, well, these seem the same.
Yeah.
And then you start getting to the devil of the details and you're like, these are not the same.
Yeah.
Which is a great segue to our list.
Absolutely. The list, 2 things that are the same, but still different.
And they may be similar, but I know we will have our opinion on which we
Yeah.
prefer when we roll through these
Kind of
lists.
like how I had a conversation with somebody the other day that Zach Bryan's wife looks very similar to his ex, Brianna Chicken Fry.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a type.
Pull the pictures up. Now, a true Zach Bryan fan told me they are very different, but me, who likes Zach Bryan, but have not fully invested in his personal life, they look the exact same.
Yeah.
But apparently one paid to look this way and one was naturally born this way. So let's start this list.
I actually grew up in the middle of the Pepsi taste test. I'll do the first one. Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Anybody my generation remembers Pepsi taste test. You'd sit down people and it was a real thing. Like they would go into malls and have people sit down and taste.
I remember.
Do a blind
Yeah.
taste of Coke and a blind taste of Pepsi, and people overwhelmingly chose Pepsi, but Coke is still the best selling. So it was like, whatever, So obviously these are 2 colas. Neither of them is the original cola, but they are the 2 dominant colas, or at least at the time, they're certainly the 2 dominant cola brands, if they're not the 2 dominant colas on the market anymore. I don't know.
And there's a small percentage of people that they're like, I can't tell the difference. It's not a big deal. And then I feel like there's majority of the people are like, absolutely not. If you go to a restaurant, hey, I'd like a Diet Coke, and they say Diet Pepsi, okay? No.
Yeah. I can definitely tell the difference.
I can
I'm
tell the
Team
difference
Coke.
between the diet drinks. I don't know if I could tell the difference between the sugar drinks. I heavily consume Diet Coke. So if you give me a Diet Pepsi, I'm definitely going to know the difference.
So I'm Team Coke. You are
Coke.
Coke all around.
Yep.
Next on the list is Starbucks versus Dunkin'. If you grew up in New England, you're going to be Team Dunkin', Boston area. That's where it started. Now
Makes
it's all
sense.
over. Yeah. I mean, they've got donuts. Starbucks doesn't have donuts, but
Starbucks has some good breakfast
they do.
sandwiches.
They do.
See, and I would think that, Starbucks has a little bit more air to it. It's kind of like over fancy Starbucks because they don't have donuts, because donuts are a cheap breakfast item. And so I think a lot of times you can consider, because even just visually, like you can get a massive cup of coffee from Dunkin'. Like it is the, huge cup versus, yes, you can get a venti at Starbucks. But when you look at the size comparison of the two, you're like, oh, Dunkin', you're a serious coffee drinker. To me, it always seems like that's the cheaper option.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. So not being a coffee connoisseur, I don't really know. I can tell you that I grew up on Dunkin', but I was there for the donuts, not the coffee.
Starbucks, I think, has the more robust coffee. This is kind of an interesting brand study. It's all about brand loyalty, what you grew up going to. I grew up with Starbucks. I didn't have Dunkin' Dunkins anywhere around. So
Yeah,
that's just
I grew up with
what I do.
Starbucks.
I didn't grow up with Starbucks because Starbucks didn't exist when I grew up. But I mean, I do.
You're
tend to-
older than Starbucks?
If I'm
Oh
gonna-
my God.
If I'm going to go to a chain coffee shop to get some coffee, and there's a Starbucks and a Dunkin' Donuts right next to each other, I'm going to go to Starbucks because I think of it as a coffee shop, and I think of Dunkin' Donuts as a donut
Donut shop.
That's why,
Yeah.
yeah. And going back to brand, like Starbucks is the serious posh kind of brand. They're pretty serious. Dunkin' is like the blue collar everyman, and it's just kind of funny. Their ads are funny.
I can get my donuts and I can also get my coffee versus Starbucks is I can get my coffee. Oh, and they also do have some breakfast stuff. But yeah, it's what's your focus? You got the kids with you. It's like, okay, well, let's go to Dunkin' because then y'all can be happy with donuts and then mama can get a coffee as well.
Yeah. And Starbucks being the premium brand, their prices are more expensive.
Because you don't want to pay for your kid to have that expensive cake pop. And okay, next one, Raising Cane's and Zaxby's.
Another classic challenging duo that I am not familiar with one half of. I should say, I have heard of Raising Cane's.
You've never eaten Raising Cane's?
I have never eaten Raising Cane's. My son is familiar with Raising Cane's because they're all over Knoxville. But, Raising Cane's is not prominent here in
We just
Shelby
got
County.
one, but I mean, just got it.
And so I've never had Raising Cane's.
Oh, you'll like it a lot. So it's
I love Zaxby's.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Zaxby's.
I prefer Cane's over Zaxby's. I think the
Does Cane's
portions
do
are better.
wings? Does Cane's do wings?
I don't think
or do
so.
they just
I think
do,
Cane's has the most simple
Cane's
menu.
is a lot like Guthrie's, where
Okay,
it's
real
just
simple.
you can pick how many tenders you want. Do you want fries or slaw? And you can pick your sauces.
See, I don't like Guthrie's because it doesn't have enough choices. I mean, I'm like, you don't have any options other than just some
Like there's a whole
tenders.
Post Malone Raising Cane's. Like Cane's, the first time I had it was Texas, and I really prefer Cane's. And there's one in Starkville, isn't there, or close to it, or on the way, or something.
Oh man,
Maybe it's
Not
between
that I know
Starkville and New
of.
Orleans.
Yeah, that's it.
yeah.
That would be
They're
it.
all
Yep.
in Louisiana.
Yep.
I'm wondering, like, I'm a big Cane's fan, but going back to the marketing conversation, I can get Zaxby's really easy. I can't get Raising Cane's that often, so I wonder if I prefer it because it is more of a luxury. They do have options.
They have strips and they have a sandwich.
They got
That's
two.
it.
They got two options.
Their sauce is really good though.
Yeah, their sauce is
And
the
I'm,
bomb.
I'm from Louisiana, so I grew up doing that more than Zaxby's, so brand loyalty. All right, going to the rideshare competition, Uber and Lyft.
I am a 100% Uber.
Uber.
I
all
don't think
day.
I've even taken
Yeah.
a Lyft.
I have taken a Lyft a couple of times, but there used to, and I don't know if it's still the case, there used to be some places where Lyft was the only one allowed and they had banned Uber, and that's when I've had to use it. But it's usually I go to Uber first, and if they don't have Uber or I can't find an Uber, then I try Lyft.
Yeah, same. And Uber has Uber Eats. It's all tied together. It's
Yeah.
convenient.
Because of the extensive traveling that I did last year, I ended up signing up for Uber One, which gives me a discount,
Look at you being
coupons
fancy.
and stuff on my orders and so forth. So yeah, those frequent customer points that you get, they're going to tend to drive loyalty. And
it's smart to do that. That's
absolutely.
good.
Okay, next one on the list.
Spotify and Apple Music. Where's the Pandora?
I was just about to say that.
Y'all give me so much crap about my Pandora.
You're Spotify.
I'm Spotify.
And I'm Apple Music.
Yeah.
So we kind of
I'm
represent
Apple
You
Music.
are? Okay. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say they also left off Amazon Music.
Yeah.
They would. Brian, friend of mine, uses Amazon Music exclusively. So there are a few streamers out there, but I think probably Spotify and Apple Music are probably the biggest.
I think two biggest. Almost all of my friends use Spotify, but I'm in the Apple ecosystem. I pay for that
Apple One.
Apple One. There it is
Yeah.
with all the different features.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And
Yeah.
Apple Music's good. I don't mind it.
But again, both of them give you your music, and it's just different features.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I had all of my music, all of my CDs ripped and in my iTunes on, when you had to listen to music that you owned, I was always in my iTunes. That's where everything was. And so I was kind of hesitant to switch to a streamer, because I was like, I've got all the music I need right in my iTunes. And I certainly wasn't going to pay for Apple Music because I've got all the music I need right here in my iTunes. But then we got a family subscription to Spotify.
There you go.
And there's so much, everything is there. All of the things.
All of the
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this last one.
Costco and Sam's Club. I've had memberships to both.
Mhm.
I have over the years. Sometimes I've even had memberships to both at the same time because they offer different things. But I prefer Costco.
So this one is a good example that segues into this episode. So Costco and Sam's Club, I have both membership. And again, this is kind of one of those financially you can figure out like piggybacking off family plans, stuff like that. But it changes. For a while, it was that Costco had better meat and Sam's had better like office supplies and products and things like that. And so it was where both of them fit and had a role in your overall lifestyle.
And I will say that my experience early on comparing Costco to Sam's was that Costco had more high-end brands than Sam's did.
It is kind of the Starbucks Dunkin' thing that I think of Costco as a little bit more upscale versus Sam's. But Sam's is where like if you're buying food for the concession stand at the high school, you're trying to like, my brother's trying to gather stuff together for the Pinewood Derby conference, like things that you need to buy bulk of and you're not necessarily caring about the name brand. You need popcorn, you need coffee. Yeah. You can go there and get it.
I feel the same about Target versus Walmart. Target is higher end. It's like Starbucks versus Dunkin', kind of a similar concept.
Yeah.
And you can get it the same. Like I was looking at, because obviously my world is formula and diapers, and my formula I can get at Target or I can get at Walmart. It's 10 cents cheaper at Walmart. And so it's like you can get the exact same products. There may be some price difference, but it's kind of what else are you getting? Where do you need to go? So this is a perfect segue into our comparison of ETFs versus mutual funds.
Okay.
Because
tell me how.
Both of them may have a fit in your portfolio, and both of them can be utilized for different reasons depending on what you need. So what is an ETF? This is not ET phoning home. I was trying to do the F like phoning home. ET stands for Exchange Traded Fund. It's a basket of investments, stocks, bonds, or other assets bundled together into one fund. Court, this sounds like a mutual fund.
It does. It does. What's the difference?
But you can buy and sell it throughout the day on the stock market, just like a stock.
Yeah.
Did we say that you could do that with mutual funds?
No, you cannot.
Yeah. Okay. So right there, looks the same, but that's the difference with the trading. You can trade this one throughout the day. Mutual funds, close of the day.
Yeah. So the similarities are, both are definitely, like we said, combined baskets of investments or, a collection of investments of securities and so forth. The big thing that they offer is easy diversification.
Yes.
You just buy this and it's
your easy button.
Yeah. Both can invest in stocks, bonds, or a mix, and both can be designed to they can achieve different goals depending on what you buy.
Yeah.
You can go conservative, aggressive, income focused, or growth based. It could be heavy on bonds and light on equities, or heavy on equities and light on bonds.
So you could have multiple different kinds of ETFs, multiple different kinds of mutual funds.
They can also focus on different sectors and so forth.
So how are they different? It's how they trade. ETFs trade all day. Price moves during market hours. So it does, like you see, we're in the trading window right now. We could pull up and see what is Apple trading for? What is this? We could see what an ETF is trading for. And there are ETFs also that follow the S&P 500, that follow different sectors. There's so many different things. And if you pay attention to any sporting lately, I feel like QQQ is constantly sponsoring and advertising about that. So again, these exchange traded funds trade all day versus a mutual fund is priced once per day after the market closes.
Which we talked about in last week's episode. Yeah.
So then minimum and accessibility. A mutual fund sometimes has minimum investments. An ETF usually just requires the price of one share or even fractional shares. So that's something to think about. What's the dollar amount you're working with? And, what would be the better option, mutual funds or exchange traded funds? Cost and fees. Many exchange traded funds or ETFs are known for low expense ratios.
What does that mean?
Katie Google here. An expense ratio is the annual fee charged by a mutual fund or an exchange traded fund expressed as a percentage of your total investment. This covers operating costs like management, administration, marketing. So a lower ratio means more of your return stays with you, which is always good.
Interesting. Okay.
So in other words, you take the fee that you pay and divide it by the overall investment that you made. That gives you a percentage, or actually it gives you a decimal point. Move the decimal point over 2 places and that's your percentage. And if it's a lower percentage, then you're getting a better return for your investment because less of it's going to expenses.
Yeah. So example, 0.50% ratio cost $5 annually for $1,000 invested. Reduce boosting your overall return over time. Think about it that way. So it's with anything we talk about reading the fine print. And so when you're comparing, you've got to, again, going back to one of our original phrases, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the ratio versus the potential return worth it with what you're getting? How else are we different? We've talked about that, how they trade, the minimum you may need to have, and the price, the costs. So ETFs are low expense ratios, where mutual funds can be low cost too, but some of them do have a higher fee because you're paying for that active management. And so again, that's where you look at, is the fee you're paying worth it for what you're potentially getting? Because again, nothing is guaranteed in this world or in the stock market world, anywhere. Nothing's guaranteed. Okay, the last step is active versus passive management. Many exchange traded funds are index based, which is passive. So they're just following index. They're following something that's already existing. They are not, for lack of better terms, they're not having to be a brainchild like a mutual fund, that it can be indexed or actively managed. Right. That there is a person or a team behind that mutual fund that is seeing these indexes, seeing the market, and they're handpicking and creating. So that's why it's going to cost a little bit more. Think about it this way. If you go on ChatGPT or Canva or something and create something yourself, then, or that it's just mirror imaging something else that already exists, that's going to be cheaper versus if you take the time to work with Cam and figure out like, well, this works now, but as your company matures, let's change the logo. Let's do this. Let's do that.
I like that illustration, Katie.
Throwing it out there. It's, cheaper isn't always what fits best. You've got to weigh the cost and figure out how it fits with your overall plan. But I will say it's, exchange traded funds and mutual funds, you could absolutely have a healthy mix of multiple of these, of different sectors, different objectives.
So one of the things, I'm going to break down something, try and make it real simple and not go too far into depth about it. But one of the key factors that you have when you talk about ETFs versus mutual funds, as you pointed out, ETFs are usually going to be passive. Mutual funds can be active. And the difference between an active fund and a passive fund or a passive ETF is the idea, is very basic investment philosophy. Can an investor perform better than the market? Active investment portfolios, active investment funds believe that the right manager can invest in such a way that he consistently beats whatever the performance of the market is. That's the entire concept of active versus passive. Passive is just trying to come up with an assortment of securities that will match market performance or match a particular performance of a particular index like the S&P. But active is specifically saying, no, we're going to beat this. That is a big thing. If you subscribe to the idea that the right guy can actually beat the market, and that guy is Joe blankety blank at XXX mutual fund, you might invest in a mutual fund because you're not going to get Joe blank at XXX mutual fund in an ETF.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. When do mutual funds make sense? 401ks and employer plans, they often have mostly mutual funds. That's usually the options they've got. They rarely going to see a 401k that has individual stock options, anything like that. It is a set it and forget it investing. Automatic contributions and dollar cost averaging. Again, remember that you're consistently putting money in regardless of the share price. And so you're diversifying among one mutual fund just because you're continuing to buy no matter what the cost was. And target date funds. I know I've talked about this before. That is truly the easy button because it's going to set an objective. You're going to retire by this date. This is how we're going to balance it. Now, I do have to say the set it and forget it investing, that's appropriate for sometimes. But then I think specifically with 401ks, too many people set it and forget it. And your 401k does not need to be overtraded, but it needs nurtured every once in a while. When do ETFs make sense? Brokerage accounts? I think people know what a brokerage account is, but this is just a type of investment account.
Think of it in the classic term stockbroker.
Yeah.
A stockbroker is this guy that you call up when you want to buy
wearing suspenders
50 shares of this stock, and he buys them for you and he puts them in an account. You pay him a fee for that purchase one time, and then those shares just sit in an account. They either rise or fall with the value of the share of stock that you purchased, but there's no other fee that's drawn from it or anything like that. It's just going to sit there because you paid a commission to the broker, and that's what he gets paid. That's a brokerage account.
Perfect. So this can be used for brokerage accounts, building a custom portfolio with a mix of stocks plus bonds plus international, low-cost index investing, flexibility, and easy access. It is not exchange traded funds versus mutual funds. It's ETFs and mutual funds. Depending on the account, what you're trying to accomplish, what's your overall goal, it very much, as I said before, it makes sense to have a mix of these in addition to managed portfolios, individual stocks, whatever fits best for you. But it's not a cookie cutter. You see Q being blasted on all the sports channels and stuff like that. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's right for you just because you're a Patriots fan and they keep advertising. You've got to make sure what fits right for your situation and how much. But this episode was kind of a short and sweet to explain the facts, explain the difference between the two of these. And it gets everybody thinking about how there are, almost with everything in life, you've got multiple options. You've got the Target and Walmart, you've got the Dunkin' and Starbucks. And so these are just two other options that you can invest in and trying to make sure they're the right fit for you. And it could be that a mutual fund or an ETF is the right fit for you right now. But in a year from now, 5 years from now, you need to move a different direction. I feel like I kind of bullseyed again.
You broke it down very well.
You got it? You understand it?
Totally.
Okay.
I'm ready to take a test.
You're ready to look at your portfolio and see how you can diversify with some ETFs and mutual funds.
Yeah, I'm kind of ready to go to Starbucks, actually.
Oh, there's the closing bell. Ladies and gentlemen, you've made it to the end of yet another episode of the Bullcast Podcast. If you liked what you heard and you'd like to hear more, please feel free to go to your favorite subscription service and sign up to have our podcast delivered directly to your device every single Thursday at noon. If you'd like to find out more about Cortland, Katie, Cameron, or Nicole, please feel free to go to our website. That website is bullcastpodcast.com. You can find our bios there, you can find pictures, and you can find a place where you can drop a comment or suggest a topic you'd like to hear us talk more about. But hey, I mentioned pictures. We do have an Instagram handle where you can see more pictures, and that handle is at Bullcast Podcast. We also have an X handle, which is also at Bullcast Podcast. And rounding out the social media, we have a Facebook page, which is Bullcast the Podcast, so you can check us out there as well. But ladies and gentlemen, every single episode, I do like to remind you that Katie, Cameron, Nicole, and I all work at a place called Pickler Wealth Advisors. And if you'd like to find out even more about us, find out about what we do, find out about what we could do for you, find out about our amazing team, and find out about our boss, David Pickler, please feel free to go to that website. That website is picklerwealthadvisors.com.
That's advisors with an O.
Not an E.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've given you everything you need to go out and explain ETFs and mutual funds to all of your friends at your next party. You'll be the hit of the show. So for now, I'm Court.
I'm Katie.
I'm Cam.
And we're done.